Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
DAZN pay-per-view price is confirmed. The July the 19th undisputed heavyweight title fight between Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois. You have the June the 28th Jake Paul, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. event, and the July the 12th Edgar Berlanga, Hamza Shiraz, Shakur Stevenson versus Sabeda doubleheader will all cost $24.99 in the UK, $59.99 in America. Alternatively, any two of the free pay-per-views can be bundled for $39.99. If I purchase all three, it's going to cost me around just under £64 in what I will outlay for pay-per-view in June and July. Just for the price of subscription going into July, the schedule on DAZN goes as so. Friday, tonight we have Beatriz Ferreira against Maria Ferreira, defending her IBF title. That's not on Matchroom, that's on an MVP promotion. Saturday, June the 8th, Wardley versus Huni. Shortly after that, Opataya defends against the Italian Claudio Speio. Tabiti versus Dixon, June the 13th. Hitchens versus Cambosos, June the 14th. Jack Catterall versus Eubank, July the 5th. July the 26th, Clarissa Shields versus Daniels.
Are you not entertained?
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
It's the start of your ending,
Look, it's the end of the cycle, but it's been an unbelievable broadcast cycle, especially the most recent times. We have a big announcement to make. But as I say, we've gone in this period from a start-up to a big business. And to see all of our fighters now reach the top is big. And as I say, we'll have a big announcement soon.
For the card at Oakwell, Yorkshire, headlining Callum Simpson will be the last boxer card on Sky. Ben pretty much confirmed that there. So is it a straightforward shift to TNT Sports, who was said to be interested and looking at the developments of whether Sky were going to renew the contract? Sky didn't want a fixed contract. Ben obviously needs a fixed contract if he's going to hold the fighters he has there on the roster, or else the fighters will be sticking around on Boxer XX without no guaranteed fight dates, literally randomly waiting to be called up.
One thing I want to get your thoughts on, Frank, obviously Boxer, I've got a show this Saturday, Callum Simpson headlining, and that's the only show in their schedule. This Sky deal, renewals, drawing closer and closer. What's your read on that? Is there any rumblings you've heard? Obviously you've had a storied history with Ben Shalom.
It doesn't look the best. Look, I can only give you my opinion. I can't give you factual knowledge on anything. I'm not surprised that he hasn't signed an extension. I mean, he hasn't really had the best 4 years. I can see a world where Sky take shows off of him here and there where they want them, where it makes sense of them. But I can definitely see them not doing an extension, a multi-year extension exclusively, because why would you? Because they haven't delivered.
Right, what do you make of this whole Sky Boxer deals up soon? There's a lot of speculation. Maybe there won't be an extension. Have you heard anything?
I don't even think about it, and I have no interest in it. It's their business, and I just hope that Sky will continue in boxing, because they've been brilliant for the boxing, but that's their business.
Did you welcome Ben onto DAZN?
Would I what?
Did you welcome him onto DAZN?
I have no idea where he's going. All I care about is where Queensbury's going, and all we're doing is delivering top show after top show. That's all I care about. I'll give a flying toss about what he's doing.
Great words of encouragement and support from boxers, two rivals, the two Franks, Smith and Warren. More like Smith and Wesson, in my opinion.
Boxing, it's a dirty racket in many instances, and that's the way it's going to be.
Seeing all this debate over whether Boxer will get their deal renewed with Sky, and I spoke to Frank Smith yesterday to get a promoter's perspective, and I want to get a fighter's perspective too. If a promoter doesn't have a long-term TV agreement, is that a deal breaker for fighters?
Oh, well, for top fighters, yeah. Top fighters want to be on the TV, and with the TV, you get the big money. That's where it comes from. So if Ben Shalom doesn't have something big in the works for him, you're going to have a lot of fighters looking to jump ship to DAZN, probably, because it's the only other place to be at the minute. So I don't know what's going to happen. I imagine he might have something up his sleeve. He's been speaking to different people on different networks, but time will tell.
I tell you what, Ben Shalom annoys me, but I don't want to see him lose all his fighters to DAZN. That would just be a sad exit for the big time, at least for now. He said he has an announcement to make. I'm not sure if he has a deal locked in. There's no leaks indicating that TNT and Boxer have completed a deal. Maybe the talks are very confidential, very private, maybe so. But it could be a bluff where he's saying, yes, he's got a big announcement, and perhaps he doesn't have a big announcement, because if he was to come out and say the Oakwell card tomorrow is going to be the last card we do on Sky, and then we're going to be looking for a new broadcaster, the fighters would then panic, and they'd be immediately looking to get off the ship and onto DAZN ASAP. Ben is not in a position where he can bargain for much right now. TNT may offer him a little more stability than Sky, but Ben's on probation. Make no mistake about that. The last 4 years have been abject failure.
No one can do it better.
Lomachenko retired when he ducked Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson, in my opinion. His career was effectively finished early last year. His fans, for my money, seemed too happy to use the get out of jail card that Tank had previously welched out on fights with Lomachenko and was trying to wait him out until around March last year. And Lomachenko declined the offer. It's difficult to argue the principle behind that, Doug, as Tank swerved him previously.
Well, we're not going to call no particular fighter out, and it's not like we ducking or dodging anyone. Lomachenko has to fight as many fights as possible extremely quick because he's very, very old. Tank is probably 10 years or 11 years younger than Lomachenko. Lomachenko will be 40 before you know it. There's no rush, Tank. Your job is to continue to go out there and do what you're doing. You're making the same money Lomachenko is making, and you're doing it easier.
Lomachenko, it's a shame his fan base didn't have the same consistency when he swerved Shakur. Shakur's boring, you don't like him. Okay, if that's how they see it, that's how they see it. A lot of the greatness you can attribute to his career would have to come from his amateur accomplishments. 21 fights is a similar number to Josh Taylor. When you're talking featherweights, that's where he started. You're talking Henry Armstrong, who went all the way up to middleweight to challenge for the world title. And you can't compare the bodies that Henry has on his resume. The numbers are just too stacked. It's the same if you compare him as a featherweight to Sandy Sadler, Salvador Sanchez, and his career got cut short. Azuma Nelson, there's featherweights like Pedroza, who the historians probably don't have in the top 10. Junior lightweight, is he up there with the Chavezes, the Floyds? As for lightweight, I'm not even going to go through the all-time great lightweights. Loma didn't really separate himself from the current batch of lightweights we have, if we're being honest. If we're talking about his skill set and talent, that has to be taken into consideration, and he was excellent. He just doesn't have the numbers in terms of quality bodies on his resume to put him up there amongst all-time greatness. Now you're going to say, well, Usyk hasn't had that much fights, and most would say he's an all-time great. But he's accomplished a lot more than Lomachenko. He's a two-weight undisputed champion, and he's still undefeated, taking on some of the hardest punchers who are outweighing him by 40, 50 pounds and higher. The Nicholas Walters performance, the Gary Russell Jr. performance, the Rigondeaux performance are standouts for me. I don't want to hear that Rigondeaux was small. He thought he could win the fight. He was unbeaten. One of the pound-for-pound best in the game around that time. And Lomachenko effectively finished that man's career. And the scalp goes to Lomachenko. I don't extract from fighters wins like that. Other people do that. I don't encourage it on this channel. I don't like it. It was a great win. All-time great, if that's how some see it, I wouldn't say it was a ridiculous claim. I just don't concur. But modern day great, yeah, I'd run with that. I'd definitely run with that.
Vasily Lomachenko hanging up the gloves, retiring as a world champion, which you don't see often. A lot of debate on social media about, where does he rank in terms of, say, modern greats and stuff.
He's a modern. I haven't really seen too much debate. I'm not on social media much myself anymore, but if anyone's saying he's not, then they don't really know what they're talking about.
Lost his second pro fight to Salido. Complained about the low blows, complained that Salido didn't make the weight, the referee didn't do his job, and obviously he thought he won on the scorecards. Cried after losing to Teofimo Lopez, claimed he was injured before, brought up corruption and inept judges in a fight. In my opinion, he clearly lost. Cried after he lost to Devin Haney, and I'm talking literally crying tears. According to Lomachenko and his fans, it's the worst robbery in boxing ever. Not.
It's a robbery.
Some of the vocabulary in boxing just gets cliched and it's just pushed out there too easy. Robbery is Walcott against Joe Louis, the first fight. Robbery is Sean McComb versus Arnold Barboza. They're robberies. Devin Haney versus Lomachenko was a close fight. I think a lot of people thought Lomachenko had an entitlement to beat Devin Haney for whatever reason, but he didn't. I think they saw Loma as the A-side, maybe the superstar over Haney. Although Lomachenko isn't a pay-per-view draw, never has been. And he's an excellent fighter, but some people do see him as something he's not. And that's why they expected him to get the verdict over Haney. People there talking like the fight was 9-3 or something. It's just ridiculous. What it was, most of them know it was a close fight. What they're upset about is Loma didn't get the A-side privileges and the benefit of the verdict. And I think they realized then that he's not the superstar they wanted him to be. I mean, the way they reacted, you'd have thought Devin was the away fighter. Crazy. Winning titles at 3 weights with so little fights. 2 Olympic gold medals. 396-1 amateur record. He's one of the best boxers of all time. But you've got to compartmentalize the debate. He's definitely maybe top 5 best amateur boxer ever. And then when you add the pro accomplishments in, then you already got a debate on your hands. But in terms of just his pro accomplishments, he stayed amateur too long to be placed amongst the all-time greats.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
Fabio came in at 243, a couple of pounds heavier than what he weighed when he took out Fraser Clark in the rematch. Nothing unusual there. Huni came in at 241 for his 2 previous fights. He came in at 248. Is there anything we need to look into with Huni weighing in 7 pounds heavier than usual? He's not a body beautiful. He's got love handles. The type of physique where you're tempted to say, is he really giving it his all on the cardio, on his diet? But it's not bodybuilding. Now, I've seen video floating around where he was knocked down in sparring. And obviously, people are still referencing the Kevin Lorena fight where he was hurt pretty bad in the last round. And let's stay with heavyweight boxers. If you see a heavyweight who's a big puncher, and like, for instance, Huni got hurt by Lorena, and you got the sparring footage, you have to look at it differently than a boxer who you're seeing getting hurt in sparring, getting hurt by Kevin Lorena. Justice at 26 is 4 years younger than Fabio. Let me remind you, a young Cassius Clay, as a pro, was floored by Sonny Banks in 62, was floored by Henry Cooper, and nearly taken out at Wembley before Ali fought Sonny Liston. The bell saved him. One fight later, Ali, against huge gambling odds, took out Sonny Liston, boxed rings around him. I'm not going to list all the examples, I've got them in my head, but I've got to limit the video's duration because people stop watching by this time for the most part. If you're still here, I'm glad you're here. Heavyweight boxers, as opposed to punchers, are better able to hide any chin issues than the punchers. At 26, Huni is still learning his trade. How long ago was that sparring footage? The Kevin Lorena fight is a year and a couple of months ago. A year and a couple of months. A heavyweight who is 26 now could mature a whole lot in that time. Has Team Huni found their optimum weight at 248? Is it strategic? Why he had the added poundage on the scale? We'll see. Looking forward to it. Teddy Atlas has bet 1,500 on Justice Huni to win. He likes the boxer with the amateur credentials, with the more obvious fundamentals than Fabio, who has a huge punch, is very athletic, and has that switch, which is quite frightening when it goes off. I've already picked Fabio. I don't know if by KO, I don't know if by points. I don't know. This is not a gambler's advisory. If I have any doubts, I don't just make it up just to fill up the vacuum in the video. I don't do that. But I'm expecting Huni to have his moments, and I'm not counting him out. But Fabio is. He's always found a way to get the W, apart from the first Fraser Clark fight, which was scored a draw. But you have to wonder, will the big punch and the switch always be there to bail him out? Will one day he need a more sound background in technique and fundamentals to get through? And is Justice Huni the guy to pose him them questions? Justice isn't the one who was dialed into a training camp and then had to shift his attention, muscle memory, into strategizing for a new opponent. And that's what Fabio has had to do. A few people are making their theories about a hometown curse, and his team was relegated this year. So, and he's fighting in their stadium. Let's not get too spooky though. Eddie Hearn tried to relate it to Jarrell Miller pulling out of the Anthony Joshua fight in 2019 and then pulling in Andy Ruiz, and we know what happened there. And likewise, Jarrell Miller pulled out of the Fabio Wardley fight, and in comes Justice Huni. Is he going to do an Andy Ruiz? But let's look at the hometown thing. He was saying, yeah, he's only a couple of minutes away from the stadium and he's seeing all the regulars and they're probably wanting a conversation with him. Yo, what's up, what's up, what's up? Shaking hands. He's also got a baby on the way. Maybe the focus might not be where it needs to be. Ben Davison and the rest of the team need to stay on him, make sure he's focused, make sure he knows what he's there for. He's not there for a big, hey guys, look at me, I'm at Ipswich. I love this club. It's not about that. At the last press conference, Fabio kept saying, yeah, it should be a good fight, but I know he's going to run. And Huni, in disbelief, said, there's not going to be no running. I'm going to box sensibly, but there's not going to be no running. What does that mean? Stand there and trade with Fabio? Why not? Does he know how to take away his opponent's power, close up, upper body movement? Perhaps use that extra 7 pounds to push Fabio back? Hey, listen, I could go on breaking down potential scenarios all day. I hope to go live and cover it, and I hope to see you there.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.
Turkey was talking to Keyshawn Davis, asking who he would like to fight next after EDWIN de los Santos. And he said, Tio. Move up to 140 and challenge Tio for that WBO strap. And Tio, he got a little shook and was asking Turkey, why can't you get me the boots fight? It's no wonder Keyshawn asked for Tio, because it looks like his lightweight days are over. He weighed in 4 pounds 3 ounces over the 135 pound lightweight limit, so he's automatically forfeited that WBO title at lightweight, and only EDWIN de los Santos can fight for it. And what happened? How did he miss the weight by so much? Did he try and get any of the weight off? I was looking for more context on the story, I couldn't find it, but somebody better tell Tio that Bob's probably going to try and put Keyshawn in with Tio next, whether Tio likes it or not. Because it looks like Tio's burnt that bridge with Turkey. But that's if Keyshawn can make 140. Peace.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes. No one can do it better.